Hi there, good morning. You're watching Market Cafe on ET now with me, Snehisha, and with me is Vinny Motiwala. Well, a subdued trading session coming for us yesterday because even though the first half of the trading session looked rather positive, we ended even below the levels we did see coming in day before yesterday, the big cut that we were talking about on Monday. But well, this is a show where we're going to take you through everything that happened post the market close yesterday in India as well as globally. In the second half of the show, we'll also go stock specific, tell you about all the stocks that could be big buzzers in today's trading session, either on the back of their Q1 numbers or individual news flows, and also talk about stocks that brokerages are keeping on their radar bright and early this morning. On that note, let's kickstart the show then. And Vinny, somber trading session for us, but recovery being seen across the US market.
Absolutely, recovery being seen because after falling for 3 consecutive days, finally US ended at least on that positive note.
Yes.
So some bit of a green coming in for the US market, and stock futures are slightly muted, you could say. Not much of an excitement. Slight slip coming in for S&P 500 down 0.2%, Nasdaq was down 0.2% as well, but not as much, right? Because they recovered at least in trade and they managed to close on the positive side. Obviously, that is what everyone is keeping an eye out on, especially some of the stocks and individual movers that came in on the back of earnings in at the US market. So we did have micro computers which saw a bit of a impact coming in because of its earnings. We're seeing that the shares of that company pulled back as much as 13%. We did have Airbnb also that slipped as much as 16%. But despite all of this, you're seeing that, we saw a bit of a move, positive trend coming in the US market. So yes, Dow Jones closing with gains of 0.7 to 0.8%, S&P 500 1% of gains, Nasdaq too managing to hold on to gains of almost 1%. So yes, interesting moves surely coming in from all these companies. Specifically looking at Nasdaq as well, what you're looking in terms of the moves that one could see and what stocks managed to hold on to a bit of a gain. Let's look at some of these components and movers for the Nasdaq as well, because at one point of time the Nasdaq had seen a sharp run up. After that, it saw a bit of a decline. So yes, we'll keep an eye out on Nasdaq, specifically all these IT companies. Now Nasdaq had fallen as much as 6-7%, you could say, in just the last 3 trading sessions. So slight bit of a recovery finally coming in even for the Nasdaq. Keep an eye out on obviously important data points that we'll be seeing coming in from the US as well. A lot more commentary from the Federal Reserve side or any of their members. It's key to watch out for. As of now, for S&P 500 also, when you're looking at it, the 11 sectors of S&P 500, they remain to be seeing slight bit of that positive up move was seen across all these sectors as well. So yes, a slight bit of a recovery that we saw there. Let's move and talk about what the European market did. Do not forget, European market obviously closes before the US markets when you look at it. So yes, CAC, FTSE and DAX. Now DAX, bit of a muted trading session, closing with gains of just 0.09%, FTSE 0.2%, and CAC managed to close almost unchanged. But yes, after the sharp sell-off, I beg your pardon, that the US has seen, as well as European markets, slight bit of a recovery coming in there. So interesting moves, Snehi, as of now coming in from the handover that we have from the global markets. Asia seems to have opened up a bit mixed as well, we could say, but that will take away post some time after China also opens up. As of now, Nifty implied 0.5% of uptick there.
Absolutely, 0.5%, so not bad. Absolutely coming in on our
I just wanted to sustain. Maybe that's the only key that we'll watch out for, right?
Maybe
because
like they say, not happening. Anything not happening is also
sometimes
a good
sign.
It's a good sign, yeah. Hopefully, so we're able to sustain at least those 24,195, 24,200 levels that it's been penciled in at right now on open. But let's also take a look at what the world of crude is up to, and you also had some recovery being seen across those indices as well. US crude oil rose above $73 a barrel yesterday, but as of now, slightly subdued in trade because you have WTI at $72.8 a barrel, slightly below that $73 per barrel mark. Brent as of now at 76.14, holding comfortably above that $75 per barrel mark. But yes, 0.6% cut on WTI and 0.5% cut on Brent is what we're seeing right now. Let's understand why all of this has happened. Now, WTI closed at a 6-month low on Monday. Remember, there was a big sell-off coming in on Monday. All the markets globally were spooked as well. So some recovery being seen at least on that front. But as of now, both of these indices look tempered nonetheless. And this has happened yesterday because primarily, like Vinny mentioned, the US markets closed on a positive note. It was a positive indication coming in for oil as well. But on the flip side, you also have Israel that is preparing for an attack by Iran after Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated in Tehran last week. This is a much predicted geopolitical development that the street is watching out for. Although Iran has said that they will not be retaliating in the form of violence, but there will be other forms of retaliation, but they want to maintain peace in the area. At least this is what Iran has said 2 or 3 days ago. But the markets are still being a little wary of all the geopolitical developments happening there, and that is also pulling up crude prices slightly. But as of now, at this moment, slightly tempered is what crude is looking like. And we also need to talk about Libya's oil field now. The NOC, which is Libya's National Oil Corporation, in protest to everything that has been happening in the geopolitical front, they have announced that they are going to be reducing the oil production or the oil output being created from the Sharara oil field, which is Libya's primary oil field. So this is also another pressure point that is actually helping oil prices, because as supply is expected to go down and demand continues to be high, prices are expected to inch higher. Basically, that is how Libya is actually protesting against everything that has been happening globally and its effect on oil as well. But this was on oil and crude. Let's also quickly take a look at what other asset classes are up to, and shifting focus to gold now. Gold has eased as of now as at $2,421.7 an ounce, almost a 0.4%, a 0.5% cut coming in on gold as well. And this has also got to do a lot with the street watching out for what the Fed is going to be doing in terms of their interest rate cut, whether or not they will wait till September to initiate it or do it in between both of these meetings. Let's also talk about what cryptocurrency is doing, and well, positive moves coming in for cryptocurrency as well, because Bitcoin took a big hit on Monday, but as of now 6% higher, above 56,300 is where Bitcoin is. Ether also almost 3% higher, so good recovery coming in across the cryptocurrencies too. But well, yes, that's all about commodities today.
Okay, surely that's about commodities, but let's move on and talk about some of the important events in the US market. Let's watch out for the crude oil stock. That's an important factor. China, the trade data, as well as the forex reserve is what we're keeping an eye out on. Global earnings, Disney, SoftBank, Sony, all of them expected to report their numbers. India front, let's watch out for Novelis's earnings that will come out as well. Other than that, fundraising plans coming in by Godrej as well as other housing finance. So yes, the board will be meeting for that. Share buyback, AIA Engineering, the board will be mulling those ideas about share buyback. Autumn investment also is going to be in focus at the board, is going to be meeting to discuss some fundraising plans, some delisting plans. So keep an eye on that. Tata Curve EV launch, so an important one coming in there. So we could see some move coming in with the launch of Tata Curve. Other than that, let's talk about some of the shares that will be eligible for dividend. Last day to buy the shares is 361 WAM, Eicher Motors, Minda Corp, Castrol India. So yes, important events, keeping an eye out on all of these today.
Absolutely. Let's start by talking about our global coverage, and the US trade deficit has narrowed to $73 billion in June, beating expectations as exports have risen 1.5%, the second highest on record. Increases in the civilian aircraft, automotive vehicles and energy commodities drove the growth, and imports also rose slightly to $339 billion, with gains in pharmaceuticals, semiconductors and energy commodities. Now the deficit with China fell by $1.6 billion, and the trade deficit has widened in all but 2 months since August of 2023.
Okay, let's move on. And the rising strength of Japanese yen is likely to have an impact on India Inc. Now, according to reports, India Inc. needs to repay almost $2.5 billion yen debt by 2025. Anurag Joshi is joining in with us with a report on this. Anurag?
Indian companies need to pay yen-denominated debt, and this includes bonds and loans totaling almost $2.5 billion by the end of 2025. Now it's about 84 million this year, but the bulk of the repayments of obligations is coming up next year in 2025, when companies will need to pay $1.6 billion of yen-denominated loans. Now, this is coming at a time when there has the Bank of Japan has raised interest rates, and Japan has had a very long spell of a deflationary phase, and it's only in 2024 that the Japanese economy is moving into an inflationary phase, and that necessitated the Bank of Japan to raise interest rates from near zero, and it was 0.0 to 0.1 to now it is 0.25%, and this rate move had led to the unwinding of carry trades in the Japanese yen. Now the Japanese samurai debt market is open to Indian companies, but mind you, to the marquee Indian names. So this is a market which is not open to every Indian borrower or any average global borrower. This is available to the top borrowers around the world, and the companies that typically borrow from the Japanese loan market and the bond market are the top Indian public sector companies like Export-Import Bank of India, and you have the IRFC, the Reliance, the Tatas. So these are the kind of pedigree companies that usually go and borrow money. And typically now with the unwinding of carry trade that has taken place, there is a chance that that the cost of borrowing on some of these loans and bonds is expected to, if we look at factor in the exchange rate, that is expected to rise. And typically the bigger reason is that these loans or this debt, companies have preferred to borrow because of the low interest rates. And now the companies have to, and they usually swapped into US dollars. And now the companies are, grappling with the fact that they have to, pay a higher cost of borrowing.
All right, let's keep it going with everything that's been happening around yen. Let's get in views also coming from Europe now. Former ECB chief Jean-Claude Trichet says that the yen's correction against the US dollar is overdue and healthy for markets. Downplaying the panic about the US economy, he adds that current data doesn't support an emergency Fed rate cut. He also attributes the yen strengthening to Japan's hawkish monetary policy, Middle East tensions, and disappointing US jobs data, but also noted that the carry trade had been active for a long time, making the correction necessary. He says that there is no need to panic. This might just be the market adjustment that we needed.
And moving on, Kamala Harris and her new running mate Tim Walz are already firing on all cylinders. At a packed Philadelphia rally, Harris introduced Walz, who beamed with excitement. Now, the duo wasted no time going after Trump and Vance, launching the fierce attack. The Harris campaign also selling Harris Walz merchandise, including the camo hat, like a Walz signature style. After the announcement, Trump campaign also in an email to supporters has bashed Walz, saying that he will unleash hell on earth.
All right, let's shift focus away from that, talk about what's been happening with Google, because Google's search engine monopoly has been ruled illegal. A judge said Google's $26 billion deals with Apple and others to be the default search engine on phones and browsers unfairly blocked its competitors. This means Google can't keep raising ad prices without any consequences. The government calls it a historic win for the American people, but Google plans to appeal to this. This is a major blow to tech giants such as Alphabet, Google's parent company, and this could also change how tech companies do business going ahead.
And Airbnb's shares took a hit and dropped as much as 14% after disappointing earnings came in from the company. Now, despite a record 125 million bookings, the company warned of slowing US demand and shorter booking lead times. Revenue grew by 11% but fell short of the expectations of the street, while Airbnb's guidance for the next quarter also sparked concerns. Investors were nervous about the consumer spending, with other companies like McDonald's also reporting signs of economic pressure.
Let's shift focus to China now, because China is taking on Elon Musk's Starlink with its own satellite constellation 1000 sales. China launched its first 18 satellites, aiming for over 15,000 in low Earth orbit by 2025. That's global internet coverage rivaling Starlink and OneWeb. The move comes amid big feats that the country achieved in recent times, from its Beidou navigation system to lunar probes and a planned crewed mission to Mars in 2033.
Okay, surely keeping an eye out on that one. But we are seeing that travel warnings are piling up for the UK as riots and disorders spread. Now, 5 countries, the UAE, Nigeria, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Australia, have warned their citizens about safety risks in the UK. India has also issued an advisory urging visitors to stay vigilant amidst the unrest. With almost 400 arrests made and violence in cities like Liverpool and Manchester, tourists are being cautioned to steer clear of the trouble spots. London has remained quieter, but the situation remains fluid in the UK as well. Now, here's a detailed report on all of that transpiring in the region. Let's go across and listen in.
In recent days, Britain has experienced heightened tension. The country witnessed one of the worst outbreaks of violent clashes between anti-immigrant demonstrators and counter-protesters. The trigger for these clashes was the murder of 3 young girls in northwest England. The unrest, fueled by propaganda and misinformation, has spread to many towns and cities, including Rotterdam and Manchester.
Despite that, those right-wing thugs who had already informed their millions of followers that the suspect was Muslim, they have not deleted their tweets. Now, the Prime Minister has since then addressed the nation twice, which in itself is quite unprecedented. But what he's not done is to take strictest of actions against these individuals who have been involved in spreading the fake news, or even take actions against Twitter.
This is not a protest that has got out of hand. It is a group of individuals who are absolutely bent on violence.
False claims that the knife attacker was a Muslim immigrant incited anger among far-right supporters. To combat misinformation, Judge Andrew Minari clarified that the attacker was born in Wales to Rwandan parents. However, far-right groups have tried to exploit this situation to amplify their anti-immigrant message, with anti-immigration activists organizing online protests. The UK has seen an increase in Islamophobic incidents and rhetoric in the recent years. According to Home Office data, race and religious hate crimes remain high, with Muslims being the most targeted religious group.
I think we have to be really, really careful with this sort of brandishing of fake news and misinformation, because we're seeing in the UK in mainstream media, so the main media outlets, your BBCs, your Skys, your ITVs, these outlets are not trusted in the UK. They have some of the lowest rating in terms of trust across the whole of Europe, across the world. People do not trust mainstream media in this country anymore. And so it's really hard in this country to know what information is true and what's not.
Tommy Robinson has emerged as one of the key figures behind these protests. He has been a former leader of the English Defence League and has had a history of legal issues. He continues to aggressively influence far-right activism, particularly against Muslim immigrants in the United Kingdom. Racial equality and civil rights think tank the Runnymede Trust warned that violent racism has been simmering under the surface of society in the United Kingdom.
All right, unrest being seen in the United Kingdom over the past couple of days, but let's also talk about the unrest that we're seeing in our neighboring country, Bangladesh. Now, we have updates on that, and Minister Jaishankar reportedly told MPs that India wants to give time to Sheikh Hasina to decide her next step. Some reports citing intel sources say that Pakistan and China are possibly behind igniting the unrest, and former Bangladesh IT Minister Zunaid Ahmed Palak was detained by authorities at the Dhaka airport. Several new appointments with the military were announced, whereas in India an all-party meet was held and the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar made a statement in the parliament as well. He expressed concern about minorities and about 9,000 students currently in Bangladesh as well.
Those were all the important global updates that we have this morning. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. After the break, we'll talk about the Asian markets. Nifty implied open seems like it's cheering up as well. So we'll talk about all of that after the break.
Hi there, welcome back. Still watching Market Cafe on ET. Now, as promised, let's take a look at what the Asian markets are up to as of now. And like you can see on the ticker also, you have some news coming in from the Bank of Japan saying that they won't be raising rates when the markets are unstable. Let's start by talking about what Nikkei did, because sentiment seems to be largely boosted by a rebound that we did see coming in Japanese stocks. Now, yesterday, Nikkei posted its best day since October 2008, soaring 10.2%. Remember, on Monday, it suffered the worst session since 1987, losing 12.4%. But as of now, Nikkei 3% higher coming in. So, good moves coming in on Nikkei as of now. Let's shift away from that, talk about what Shanghai is up to, because later today, traders in Asia will be assessing the July trade data coming out of China as well. Economists expect exports to grow 9.7% on a year-on-year basis. So let's take a look at what Shanghai is up to. Has opened rather flat, and 0.2% higher is where Shanghai is. Let's also take a look at what Hang Seng is doing, where that one has opened, and 1.5% uptick coming in on that front as well. The 220 points higher, so good moves over there as well. Kospi rose nearly 2% on open and is right there as of now. In fact, inching towards more gains. 2.8% higher is where Kospi is. Lastly, let's also talk about what Australia was up to. It opened rather flat this morning, but continues to not do much today. 0.5% higher coming in for S&P ASX 200, pardon me, as well of Australia. Now, when we talk about our moves, we closed the market, we closed on the Nifty even below 24,000 at 23,992. However, implied open at 24,295, quite the healthy uptick, about 250 points higher, 1% higher in fact is what GIFT Nifty is penciling in on the spot basis. So, well, we can expect a positive open, but we did see a similar move yesterday as well, a positive open, but closed down rather tempered. So we'll just have to wait and see what the market session holds for us today.
Okay, surely keeping an eye out on that, but advertisers are making a beeline to India's Olympic champions, and in fact there has been 70% jump in advertisers' interest in Olympics compared to the last edition. Now, so does the winner indeed take it all at the Olympics this time? Ankita Saxena has found a special report. Let's go across.
On every sports lover screen right now is the Paris Olympics 2024, which is going on in full swing. Well, so far India has managed to clinch 3 bronze medals at the Games, but it's the advertisers' interest that is actually in full sprint. Well, according to Viacom 18, which is the official broadcaster of Paris Olympics, the advertiser interest has peaked 70% since the last edition. So what is really interesting the advertisers this time? Let's find out. According to sources, Indian Olympic Association, or the IOA, has secured sponsorship deals worth 50 crore rupees featuring prominent brands such as Reliance, BPCL, Adani, Aditya Birla Capital, Yes Bank, Amul, Inox Leisure, JSW, Puma and Tasva. Many of these sponsors have launched campaigns featuring some of the star athletes already. IOA has also onboarded around 12 Olympic partners. Bharat Petroleum Corporation, Reliance Foundation, Adani and Aditya Birla Capital are the principal sponsors for Team India at the Paris Olympics. Amongst the worldwide sponsors, there are 14 names on board, including Coca-Cola, Airbnb, P&G, Panasonic and Samsung. Well, while those were the advertisers on board for the game, let's find out about the advertiser interest in our champions. Poster boy of Olympics gold medalist Neeraj Chopra has been leading the charge by becoming the darling of numerous brands like Visa, Under Armour, Samsung, P&G, Optimum Nutrition, Omega and many more. In fact, he is the only non-cricket superstar to feature among the top 25 most valued celebrities in 2023, according to a Kroll report released recently. He is ranked at the 21st spot with a brand valuation of $29.6 million. Not far behind is ace shuttler and two-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu, who is also amongst the top non-cricketing sports icons. She is the face of brands like Bank of Baroda, Optimum Nutrition, Visa, Century Mattresses, American Pistachio Growers, and Flybu, and many more. Well, while Neeraj Chopra and PV Sindhu are the poster boy and poster girl for Indian Olympics, the new entrant to jump onto the brand wagon is the newly crowned bronze medalist. Manu Bhaker has already secured 2 bronze medals in the 10-meter air pistol individual and mixed team events. Following her recent achievements, over 40 brands have already approached Bhaker for endorsements, according to sources. Previously, Bhaker charged 20 to 25 lakh rupees per endorsement. However, her fee has now increased 6 to 7 times, with one deal reportedly closing at around 1.5 crore rupees. Well, clearly, cricket is not the only sports, but Paris Olympics 2024 has also garnered the interest of both fans and advertisers alike.
All right, well, very interesting advertisements list put together, in fact, and also highlighting why cricket is not the only sector that advertisers are focusing on. Paris Olympics going on in full form as well, but
Welcome back, and you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. Nifty implied open up almost 0.9% in trade, almost reaching that 1%. But more update that came in from the government that was that has relented on the capital gain taxes, offering a relief to homeowners. And Finance Minister Sitharaman is expected to propose amendments in the finance bill now, which will allow taxpayers to choose between old and new tax regimes for the property transactions, restoring the indexation benefit. Prakash is joining in with us, who had spoken about this and broken the story before. Prakash, what are the details on this front?
Yes, it's an important development coming in and a big relief for the real estate sector, as the government has proposed an amendments in the finance bill. These amendments have now been uploaded on the members portal, and it will be moved by the finance minister tomorrow in the parliament. The government has proposed relief measures in respect of taxation of immovable property. The taxpayers can compute his taxes under the new scheme and old scheme and pay such taxes whichever is lower as per the proposal. Along with that, options will be given to compute taxes either at 12.5% without indexation benefit, or at 20% with the benefit of indexation on real estate transactions. In addition to that, these options will be provided in the case of transfer of long-term capital assets, being land or building or both, by an individual or HUF. It is important to know that the relief measures which have been proposed by the government on the property acquired before 23rd day of July 2024. So these relief measures have been proposed by the government in order to address the industry's concern, and the finance minister is expected to move these amendments in the parliament.
all right, so the Nifty Realty is going to be one index to watch out for, and all the real estate stocks are expected to be a buzz on the back of this very positive news flow coming in. But let's shift focus. Ola Electric's IPO closed for subscription yesterday, seeing a bumper growth. The company offered over 8 crore shares valued at 645 crore rupees, and the company is expected to list on the bourses on the 15th of August. Founder Bhavesh Agarwal shared the path ahead for the company. Listen into this conversation he had with ET Now's editor-in-chief, Nikunj Salmia.
From our fundamentals, nothing changes. The vision that we have, the mission that we have to really make India a global EV hub, and to make all of automotive in India electric, and to build core EV technologies like the lithium cell in India, all of that remains the same. In fact, this milestone only further strengthens our resolve as a company and as a team to really continue on this path.
Looking at a subscription number now that you have a full house, any second thoughts that you should have priced the issue higher?
No, I think The price was the right price, I think. We left something for everybody. And in the end, my goal was to get a wide spectrum of investors interested and excited to be part of this journey. Because, like I shared on with you a few days ago, this is a India future manufacturing product, make in India story. And we're just getting started. EV and energy tech in India is just in its absolute infancy.
How much of a battery capacity you think would be consumed by your own vehicles, which is two-wheelers and eventually four-wheelers someday?
No, we are right now in our phase 1 of battery capacity, which is 5 gigawatt hour. We are setting that up. We've already completed 1.5, and the remaining will come online early next year. So at 5 gigawatt hour, we can actually have enough cells for about 1.5 to 2 million two-wheelers. And at that scale, we believe we will have enough for ourselves, and then we'll have enough capacity to sell to other automotive companies or even to other end use cases like storage, be it home storage, etc. So that's our thinking. But when we get there, it depends on market dynamics, etc. But that is definitely something we are keeping an eye out for.
Okay, but on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with the more stocks to watch out for, more updates after that break.
Hi there, welcome back. Still watching Market Cafe on ET now. Implied open above 1% now. Vinny, it's just been gaining ever since we started this show. But let me also now take it across to my colleague Ansh, who's standing by with a roundup of what the FNO levels are expected to look like and what the FIIs did in yesterday's trading session. Ansh, over to you.
Right, so let's start with what FIIs did in the previous session. They continue to cover their long position and adding short position. So net to net, we are seeing addition of more than 31,000 contract on downside, due to which the total long has dropped down to around 57.4% from 60.2%. And the total short is at 29 session high, indicating that they continue to be bearish in the market. But if you see Nifty, the Nifty has been declining for last 3 consecutive sessions, and currently it is hovering around that 24,200 mark, which is a very critical level. We need to come above that to have positive sentiment in the market. Whereas on option front also, we are seeing that call writing is happening at the exact same 24,200 mark, indicating option traders are expecting resistance around this level. But if you talk about Nifty Bank, this is interesting because Nifty Bank is around its 100 DMA, which is around 49,400, 49,500 level. And historically, we have seen that index has been bouncing from this moving average from last 5 months for around 5 to 10%. So this keeps the bias positive till we stay above that moving average on a closing basis decisively. Whereas if we talk about index options, then today we have weekly option expiry, so we may see some good volatility in Nifty Bank. We are seeing call writing happening at 50,000 and 50,200, indicating option traders are seeing some resistance around this level. Lastly, let's have a quick view on few FNO stocks that are in focus, and we are seeing long build-up happening in Deepak Nitrite, Aarti Industry and PI Industry, whereas short build-up for Marico, Power Finance and Shree Cement. So keep an eye on the stocks.
Okay, surely keeping an eye out on those stocks on the back of FNO side and what would be happening there. But channel checks are suggesting that for July, the chemicals have seen some more price changes on a month-on-month basis. What are the details? What will be the impact on chemical stocks? Let's go across to Jinay, who's joining in with us to give us all those details. Jinay, what is expected out of the chemical stocks today? What are the changes in prices that we're seeing?
Well, yes, so the month of July, we have seen decline in chemical prices and a mixed bag volatility across all the chemical spreads. Let's look at what has changed and its impact at the stocks. Starting with acetic acids, it has changed up about 2.1% sequentially, which will be positive for GNFC, while negative for other consumer stocks such as Laxmi Organics and Jubilant Ingrevia. Fluorspar, which is down about 4% month-on-month basis, this will be negative for Gujarat Fluorochemicals, Navin Fluorine and stock like SRF. Moving on, soda ash China prices saw a downtick about 9% sequentially. Now this will be negative for Tata Chemicals and GHCL, but also remember that India prices are not fully in sync with the China prices. Moving on, PKO, which is palm kernel oil, saw an uptake of about 17% sequentially. This will be slightly negative for Galaxy Surfactants, so that's a stock to watch out for. Phenol benzene, Here the prices have contracted about 1% sequentially, which will be marginally negative for Deepak Nitrite. Moving on, PVC and VCM spreads, we have seen a contraction of about 16.4% sequentially, which will be negative for stock such as Chemplast, Sanma. Moving on, TDI Toluene spreads, this has contracted by about 14% sequentially, which will be negative for GNFC. If we talk about caprolactam benzene spreads, they have seen an uptick of about 7% month-on-month basis, which will be positive for GSFC. And lastly, if we talk about volatility in ethanol spreads, then it has seen an expansion of about 38% this month itself, which will be positive for stocks such as Laxmi Organics and Jubilant Ingrevia.
All right, Janay, thanks so much for taking us through that. So, all eyes will be closely watching the chemical space as well. But Janay, while you're with us, also take us through the other stocks that are going to be in focus today on the back of their individual news flows.
Well, yes, so on the back of the earnings, Tata Power will be focused. It has come in with a good set of numbers. The revenue saw an uptick of about 14% coming in at 17,294 crores, whereas EBITDA jumped about 22%. Also, the company has proposed an acquisition of 40% stake in a certain hydropower plant for 830 crores. Moving on, Krishna Diagnostic, again a good set of numbers, revenue up about 22%, net profit jumping about 23%. Also, Dr. Prashant Deshmukh has tendered his resignation from the position of CEO, that is to note out for. Also, there's an inline set of results from Linde India. Net profit jumped about 8% sequentially, whereas EBITDA also saw improvement of about 6%. Moving on, Cummins India, net profit jumped about 33%. What to note out is for that Mr. Aswath Ram has tendered his resignation as MD and has appointed Ms. Sweta Arya as the new MD. Moving on, weak set of numbers from Gland Pharma, net profit down about 26% coming in at 144 crores year-on-year basis, whereas EBITDA saw a contraction of about 10%. And lastly, watch out for Suzlon Energy as company has approved acquisition of 76% stake in Renam Energy Services, and this is for acquisition price of about 660 crores.
Janay, thank you so much for that, keeping an eye out on all those stocks in trade today. But with that, we're absolutely out of time. On this edition of Market Cafe, leaving the Nifty implied open with an uptick of 1%. So keep an eye out on that. The markets will take the action forward.